Cortana, I'm gonna need you now.
You need her to Google something for you again? In this episode, we found out that Master Chief is perfect when he fits a woman. Yes, Cortana got her deepest, darkest desires to actually wipe out Master Chief and completely take over his body. But you know what? She was a better Master Chief than John was anytime. She kept her mouth closed, she kept her helmet on, and most of all, she stopped whining about his pissing feelings every 5 seconds. All in all, I'm all for it. Quite frankly, I hope he never comes back. Look, I know it's unusual, but if John has to get wiped out of his own body just so he can have something even vaguely resembling Master Chief, that's a price I'm willing to pay. But this is the review of episode 9. I reviewed the others. There's a link down in the description below, but for now, let's get stuck in. We start with Master Chief waking up after the big fight from the last battle, and there's ringing in his ears. He realizes at this point that maybe sleeping with an alien spy that wants to wipe out your entire species wasn't his brightest moment, and so he runs off. I'm still not exactly sure how all of this damage happened, considering the blast was just meant to knock out people, but apparently there's lots of dust for some reason. And rubble everywhere. It's even made part of the building collapse in the corridor. This never happened before. We've had an EMP and something that knocks out humans. I don't know how that damages concrete. But he walks into the artifact room and obviously it's gone. Strangely, Woman in STEM is barely damaged. We've had concrete outside break, but she's just got a slight dribble out of her nose. Also, Master Chief can barely stand, but Woman in STEM, she's got superpowers, what can I say? So Makee's carrying the artifact in a box. Don't know where she got the box from. She somehow manages to walk up right behind a soldier and take his gun out of his own holster, and then immediately shoots him with it. And then we get this shocked face, as if she's never killed anyone before. I'm supposing all those worms on the ship didn't count. Let's not pretend she's got a conscience now, eh? Especially when she immediately points the gun at the next dude. She tells him to put down his gun, which for some reason was still in his holster, even though he just watched his best friend get murdered. And she demands to know where the Covenant ship is and for him to take her there. Meanwhile, Master Chief runs back to the Spartans that wanted to murder him about 5 seconds ago. I'm not sure that's the best plan myself. No, really, that's probably not the best plan. Now, Vanek says that Halsey's orders were to bring Master Chief in dead or alive, which doesn't make any sense because I don't know what UC is as a blessed one to her when he's dead, but here we are. And Master Chief just immediately starts telling him, oh, we got kidnapped. Ah! Yes, this is another feelings party again, just in case you thought we'd escape that tell. It's like, oh, when we were kids, we were taken from our families. Don't you realize you're talking to people which have emotional suppressants in their back? I don't think it's going to work. Especially when she goes to take one step towards him and the other woman just shoots in the air as a warning shot. And then she picks up, it's true, you've been lied to. They don't care, they've got emotional suppressants. And then the next thing, her gun starts shaking all over the place. I don't understand. And I'm like, why do you care? You've got an emotional suppressant. None of this should bother you. You're willing to kill him. You've known him your entire life, but for some reason, you care about parents, which you basically don't even remember. Congratulations. And then he starts walking forwards, even though she shot in the air the last time he tried, and this time she does nothing. And then all Master Chief says is she wants to control you, and she lowers her gun. This doesn't make any sense. So he says, raise your weapon, and she does. And he's like, she kidnapped us and brainwashed us. I'm like, yes. And they know that bit, it's just the parent bit they don't know about. They know they were brainwashed their entire life. So Master Chief says she turned us into weapons, and Vanek replies, that's not true. Yes, it is. You're standing there in Spartan armor. What on earth do you think you are? So then Vanek gets all emotional and screams, it's not true, and points a gun in his face. What is going on? These people are meant to be stoic with emotional suppressants in their back, and I've never seen such whiny little brats before. I don't know why the plot has just forgotten that these people can't feel emotions and why they're acting so emotional. So this dude starts screaming how he was there, which I thought was the most obvious thing in the world. But apparently Master Chief still can't put 2 and 2 together without getting 17. Master Chief's like, oh, I never saw that coming. Oh. This is yet another of those scenes where everyone's supposed to think it's so amazing and deep and complicated and emotional, when it doesn't make the slightest bit of sense why these Spartans are emotional or why any of this is getting through to them. Also, even when it is getting through to them, they still want to kill Master Chief, who, if anything, should have a greater bond to them than anything their parents did. Although this guy goes, if there's anyone you want to shoot, it's me. And we cut back to Vanek and are just expecting him to go, okay. Poof. These are literally emotionless killing machines. They really should have just accepted the offer while they were there. But Master Chief says, lose the artifact, lose the war. So they decide to go after the artifact. And the only thing I learned from this scene is, even though they've got emotional suppressants, For some reason, they could still get incredibly emotional. And this dude's gun's shaking so much, I'm kind of thinking he's got Parkinson's disease all of a sudden. That said, at least the other two Spartans kept the pissing helmet on. Now, they've already said if they lose the artifact, they lose the war, so every single human in the universe dies. But Gun Oil Gunk Woman doesn't care about that, and she's like, I want to go after Halsey, and goes off after that. Yeah, doesn't matter if every single other person dies, as long as she gets her little death wish. Getting Halsey means more to her than saving the entire universe. All I'm saying, maybe her commander wanted to give her an order that made a bit more sense than what she chose. So we got all these soldiers pointing guns at a spaceship, shouting, Halsey, this is your last warning. Honestly, I don't think that's going to do anything to a spaceship. I mean, seriously, does this look like it would do anything? But Halsey and the creepy scientist are on the ship, and they are panicking. Halsey might be panicking because she's going to go to this guy's secret special home, along with the other 5,000 clones, I'm not sure. But the dude's screaming, oh my god, we need to take off before they can energize their EMP cannons. How awful are your guns if you have to charge them up before they have to fire? Yeah, we made really advanced technology, which doesn't work until 5 minutes after you need it. But Halsey's preoccupied. She's like, oh, did you get a reading? Did you get a reading? Because obviously someone touching the artifact is far more important than getting off the planet so that you can carry on with your evil plan. I mean, seriously, all people have done every episode is touch the device. If you need yet another pointless reading of the same thing happening, I don't know what to tell you anymore. Type B in STEM forgot the other 8 weeks even happened. And this guy's so desperate. No, you've got to come with me. They'll arrest you. They'll arrest you. Thing is, the alternative is just spending your life alone on an alien planet with him. Get handcuffed by the soldiers or get handcuffed to a radiator in his basement. Plus, at that point, you're competing with every single other one of your clones. That's never gonna work. He does have this great line, though.
The package is secure.
She doesn't want anything to do with your package, mate. Have you not learnt yet?
We still have options.
The entire human space force is after me, but as long as you're holding my package, we've got options. She doesn't look very pleased about his package. But the Spartans catch up with the Covenant Phantom, and it's way too late. And obviously, Makee ended the soldier who helped show her where that ship was. It's almost like you shouldn't do what the alien spy is telling you to do when they're asking you, how do I escape? It turns out Master Chief can't bang decades of brainwashing out of her in 30 seconds. She needed 40, what can I say? But don't worry, Gun Oil Gunk Woman is on the case. Because she's late as well. And just as she turns up to Halsey's ship, that decides to take off. At this point, she's chasing after it, and I'm like, I don't know why you're even bothering. There's literally no way you're going to catch that. That'd be stupid. Luckily, rather than the spacecraft just going up in the air, apparently it decides to go over a lip and dip for some reason, giving it the perfect option to jump off the edge. So stupid we have. Now, I will never understand what happens next, because the first thing she does is shoot the 2 vents on the ship, which is meant to take out an engine, and then she goes on the ship herself. So at this point, you've taken out one of the engines, and the spacecraft can't get into space, because now there's a big hole in the roof. Creepy scientist, though, always with a plan, sprints across the room, presses a button, closes the door. Genius, what could possibly go wrong? Alright, I don't know if you watch TV and movies over the last 10 years, but one thing we've learned is that you can't keep Type Bs out of anything. And that includes this room as she just smashes open the door. And then immediately takes off her helmet in front of all of the enemies, which she's just invaded their ship and sabotaged. This is a room in open enemy territory where she's walked in against people who are evil. Take my helmet off, I don't need protection from these people, despite the fact that I've just destroyed their ship. There is no bigger face-palming moment than this. But hey, she must have done it for a reason, right? She must have a great reason to take it off. And she asked a question. So what was it?
What's my real name?
Ignorant cow. I'm not really sure what you want from me, love. So then she starts walking towards Halsey with her back to the creepy scientist man, just openly exposing herself. Although at least she's still got armor on this time. You can see creepy scientist creeping up behind her, and for some reason, the advanced military soldier doesn't realize there's someone getting in her blind spot. So Halsey's backing up to deliberately lead her into it. You're screaming, who am I? Who am I? Hopefully dead in the next 15 seconds because you deserve it. And Halsey's just like, you're exactly where you're meant to be. A creepy scientist just nails her on the back of the head. And I'm like, yes, do it again. She clearly deserves it at this point. Look, if you're stupid enough to take your helmet off in an active combat scenario, anything goes, you deserve what you get at that point. No sympathy. Next. But despite the fact that he hit her with what looks to me like some kind of walking stick, apparently didn't knock her out, which is what we all expected. which is why you should have kept wailing. And at the end of the day, her skull might resist a walking stick, but it wouldn't have resisted any of the weaponry which is available in this time. So, you know, if anything, wouldn't the gun oil have made it slip into her scalp easier? I'm not really sure. It's just like, Kai, no, stop it. It's like, yeah, I did want to knock you out before, but please don't hurt me. Which is weird, considering all of his fantasies probably involved getting carried around the room by a woman much larger than himself. Admittedly, all those people were Halsey, which would explain the look of disgust on his face the instant he gets touched by a different Type B. But Gun Oil Woman just grabs him by the chest and yeets him into the skyline. I really don't know what this is meant to be. And she kills him. She takes out the single best character in the show, the only one I've been watching, the guy with the backstory that I'm really interested in, and he's gone. Now, I can hope that he is also some kind of clone and will come back in a later episode. It's possible. Probably not that likely, though. And she's going to pretend she cares. Oh, no, I lost control and I killed a man. But she doesn't care about it for the rest of the episode, so, you know, can't be that big a deal. I mean, for a show that keeps waffling on about feelings, she was much better when she had the thing in her back, but she's been completely useless since. But Halsey decides to just yeet down the corridor. And Spot's like, oh yeah, I forgot there was two of you. Maybe it's the walking stick, I've just got a short memory. So Halsey also uses the tactic of press random button to close door, except this time it actually closes. And for the first time, realizes she should have put her helmet back on. Hopefully, she keeps it on from this point and has learned a lesson from it. Yeah, that's never gonna happen, is it? Halsey wouldn't have even escaped if she'd kept her helmet on, rather than taking it off to scream at her for some reason. No, we're still gonna make that same mistake, aren't we? Meanwhile, Halsey's just fired herself off in an escape pod, and she goes flying across the ship, because oh yeah, that engine that I shot just exploded. Now, I'm a bit confused by this because we've already seen the Spartans survive just massive falls, so I don't know why she doesn't just jump off the ship. But apparently she goes back to the cockpit to try and make it fly. There's literally every alarm in the world being beamed into my ears. And then she goes, hull integrity is compromised. And I'm like, no crap, Sherlock. You were the one that ripped a hole in the roof. What were you expecting? And all I can say is if she's flying the ship, that doesn't look like a very good angle to me. And then Master Chief runs out to watch it. And you know at this point, he's only got one thought on his mind. Women drivers, am I right? But for me at this point, there was zero tension. Because we've already seen Master Chief survive this same crash. When he crashed in episode 5, a spaceship into another spaceship and just cracked his neck and carried on like it was nothing. So we know Spartans can survive this. There's no tension. But everyone's like, oh no, there was a crash. Yeah, but there's no tension because we know she can survive this. And everyone's doing the same thing. It's like, yeah, but there's no tension. And Matt Steve's looking around and says, oh, another one's gone. It's like, no, there's no tension. We know she can survive because you did. It was one of the few times he had his actual armor on. And there she is. And the music kicks off and everyone's thinking, yeah, this is an amazing thing. I bet you never saw that coming. I'm like, that was inevitable. In this show, only two things are certain. Spartans will take their armor off in literally every single instance they physically can. And they'll also survive everything. One of the issues with only having 4 Spartans in the entire universe is you can't get rid of any of them because of the plot. Spartan armor, the strongest armor humanity has ever created. Next to plot armor. I think this is meant to be a hero shot. No, she just wiped out the best character in the show. She's not a hero. But instead, what we get is this line from Master Chief.
Cortana, I'm gonna need you now.
You need her to Google something for you again? And that was the intro, and it really sets up the rest of the show, because what that had was some good scenes interspersed with some of the most stupid people, stupid decisions, and stupid writing I've ever seen in an episode. And you get that through the rest of the piece. Every time I get a piece that I enjoy, it's surrounded and spoiled by the worst script or the most ridiculous character decisions you can think of, time and time again. But Cortana's getting debriefed by the scientists and pumped for information, which is exactly what Master Chief did to Makee last episode. But he asks her if Halsey asked Makee to help her steal the artifact. And she says yes. No one has questioned how she was meant to carry the artifact when it would send her into some kind of VR state, but apparently no one cares about that. But Chief asked them to bring up the star chart, which Makee told them about as soon as she landed, and it turns out she did actually tell them the correct star system. I don't know why, because at that point she was still working for the Covenant, so I don't know why she was telling them the truth. But Type B in STEM's was like, we've already searched every inch of that and we didn't find anything. Of course, Chief doesn't believe her, because she's useless at everything she's ever done, and so that's probably quite a good option. But they say, how could you believe a single thing she's told you after what she's done? He's like, she was honest with me, at least for a little bit. And he has literally no reason to think that, but like I said in the last episode, whipped. She was honest with me for a little bit. I could feel it.
I believe Master Chief is right.
Oh, and did you feel it as well?
In my own way.
That's as good as the script writing gets, folks. Did you feel it as well? Well, kinda. Yeah, we're not going to get any explanation. That'll do. It's just, yeah, Cortana, she's magic. What can I say? We could have explained that she can detect lies. She has sensors to detect heartbeats in other people. There's so many ways an AI could detect someone lying, but instead, the best that we get is, in my own way, yes, miss. But Master Chief's thinking of the Covenant prophecy, the halo will be revealed, where the stars sparkle like glass. And he asks Cortana about the gravitational field strength of the area. She's like, oh, interesting question. And look, I'm not an astrophysicist or a biologist, but I think everything that's about to come after this point is complete nonsense. I don't know, it's just my BSO-meter is kind of off the scale during this bit. Because Cortana says it's got several gravitational fields, which, correct me if I'm wrong, is just every single system with more than one planet. And then she starts talking about gravitational strings, which I've never heard of before. But all of this creates gravitational lensing effect, which warps and scatters the light, which creates a kaleidoscopic effect to us, presumably. And notice how that image is 2D because it's meant to be from our perspective. So is this a 360-degree effect? Or did the Covenant prophecy only talk about the actual lensing effect from our position? And what I don't understand is this effect doesn't exist within that solar system, and the Covenant are already in that solar system. So why have the Covenant created a prophecy about something for other people to see when they're already within it and so won't see it from this perspective at all? And I'm also pretty sure that I've only just scratched the surface of everything that's wrong with what she just said, but it's for the finale. I don't want this video to be 4 hours long, and quite frankly, we should all just be glad it's over. But she jumps in and she's like, oh, immediately, I'm gonna send 12 battalions after this thing. Admiral, if you send 10,000 Marines, you will lose 10,000 Marines. And the thing is, as we'll all see later on, I kind of think 10,000 Marines would have been really useful in that fight. Call me crazy. I also don't see the point in having any Marines if they're just not going to be useful at all against any Covenant. Surely we should be training these soldiers so that they're actually useful in a fight, for once. But Chief's just like, we can do it, ma'am. Silver Team can do it. And like, at this point, I'm not sure the 4 of you can change a light bulb successfully. At least not without having some kind of emotional breakdown about how the glass has destroyed the environment or something. But she gives him this speech. It's like, your behavior has been erratic recently. Whatever emotions you might feel. She doesn't even know he's removed his pill yet. This entire show, no one has questioned if he's removed his pill or not. But now they're going, if you've got a load of emotions, put them aside. And I'm like, yes, what she's doing is giving him a speech about how he should act like a man. Master Chief, for once in your life, I need you to actually be masculine and put your feelings aside so you can stop whining like a scared little brat. Please, Master Chief, for once in your life, we actually need you to man up. And for the love of everything, man, keep your helmet on. And then she goes, for this, John needs to no longer exist. You must be Master Chief. I'm like, could we not have that for the previous other 8 episodes? What if that's all it took? Why on earth did we not get that? Nobody wants John. We only want Master Chief. That's the point of the entire show. Get your whiny little ass out of our Halo show. So then we cut to the ship, where he still doesn't have his helmet on. Look at all those scratches and smashes all over his face. You know what protected those? The Spartan helmet. At this point, every single dent in his face is just yet another reminder of his own stupidity. Now, for some reason, this guy, after telling them that he kidnapped him as a child, has come to talk to him about Halsey. We've tracked her escape pod and we're tracking her down. It's like, yeah, we all assume so. But I don't know why you came here if you actually wanted to leave breathing. But he starts going, there's a lot that happened over the years, a lot that I was trying to rationalize. I'm like, yeah, in the last episode, you said it wasn't you that did any of it. It was the system. So far, you haven't taken any responsibility for your own actions at all, fella. It's like, there's no apology that can give you back what we took from you. And I'm like, well, for a start, you could tell him where his parents are. They might still be alive. Not a single Spartan, when they found out that they were taken from their parents, went, where are they now? But he goes, at some point, Captain, there will be a reckoning. Someday, Captain. Not today. I'm like, okay, fine. I mean, if that's the same reckoning you gave Halsey, that's going to be you doing literally nothing. Congratulations. I'm sure he's really scared. Didn't even harm a hair on Halsey's head. Yeah, she really learned her lesson, didn't she? Here come all the other Spartans, without their helmets on. Just proves Gun Oil Gunk Woman still hasn't learned a lesson. But Gun Oil Woman asked this question, and I think that there's one unifying answer for every single person which has watched the show.
Were you really gonna shoot me?
Of course, easiest decision in the world.
Oh, absolutely. No question.
Hey, I don't blame them. They've met her. And she's like, oh, I can't believe you two. You're like ice cold. It's like, yeah, they do have an emotional suppressor in their back, which you were supposed to put back in, but still haven't. And weirdly, no one's asked her to. I don't really understand. But then Panic goes, yeah, but weren't you gonna shoot us? And she's like, of course I would have, but I would have felt bad about it. What, like you did with the best character in the game, where she lost control, killed him for no reason, felt bad for about 2 seconds, and then now no longer cares and hasn't told anyone about it. Oh yeah, he went down in that ship, remember? He's definitely gone. This is a Type B who has gotten away with murder, all because he hit her on the back of her head with the walking stick, and she's going to face 0 consequences for her actions. Justice! These are supposed to be the good people, by the way. But Master Chief decides, even though he's going to be flying a spaceship through incredibly dangerous enemy territory, he's not going to put his helmet on. But don't worry, because we've got Halsey going for a jog. She's like running through forests with a load of soldiers after her. I don't know why they're chasing her. They've got spaceships. They can just fly over her and come down from the top. It'd be far easier. But instead, somehow, they manage to just chase her down and trap her on all sides. Funniest thing is the soldier behind her looks more scared than she is. It's like, oh no, I'm about to piss off Halsey. What's the worst she's gonna do, mate? Clone you. So Makee arrives back on the Covenant alien planet. The alien's just holding the thing out in front of him like it's gonna bite him or something. I think it's meant to look ceremonial, but it looks more like it smells. Oh no, keep it away from me. I wonder if they'll ask her what that window in her dress is for. Although she's getting down on her knees so they can cop an eyeful. Now we have a weird scene with this because you can tell this is a submissive posture. And yet she doesn't act like it. Because they start saying you've delivered both the keystones as you promised. But one isn't happy. She also promised us the demon's head. It's like, yeah. To be fair, she did have that in her mouth at one point, so she had every opportunity to provide it to him. Maybe if they'd installed those energy blades a bit lower down, she could have been more successful. Starts getting really arsey with him. She's in this incredibly submissive position, and she just starts bad-mouthing him. Are you not satisfied, noble hierarch? And she's like saying it through gritted teeth. Are you not satisfied? And I just wish they'd nailed the attitude. Either you're on your knees and being submissive, or you're not. You can't be both. But they're still pandering to her. You have done well. Soon, our Covenant will begin the great journey. And she's beginning to realize she might have been a bit thick. Will I accompany you? It's like, have you not realized for decades all they ever talk about is wiping out humanity and you are one? I know she's acted like in previous episodes she wasn't, but that's just a fact regardless of her opinion, so I'm not sure why she was bothering. But he reassures us, no, there's always a place for you next to Master Chief's corpse. I don't know what he's going for with this. But she's like, of course I want to go with you. And then realizes she should hide her finger. But the thing is, there should be a big gaping hole in her finger, and there isn't. All they've done is put a little bit of red paint on her fingernail, which is still there. You can see her fingernail in this picture. I don't know how lazy you need to be to not even like CGI a wound on her finger or something, but they couldn't even be bothered. They just painted it red as if, oh yeah, that's where the blade came out. Did you see the size of that thing? It would have taken up her entire finger up to the knuckle, but no, it's too late to cover it up now, showrunners. Your incredible laziness has already been spotted. But Cortana's finally coming free about how evil she actually is and how she was solely invented to wipe his mind. The reaction to this is the reaction he has to everything, because he only has one expression. But he asks her how she was planning on achieving that, which seems stupid considering she's implanted in your brain. What do you think she was planning on doing? And she's like, it was always the plan. It's what I was designed to do. It doesn't make it any better. But she tells him the only reason she didn't engage in her incredibly evil plan was because Halsey needed him to touch the artifacts, and she couldn't do it on her own. But Cortana says the reason why she actually didn't betray him is because she was designed to learn, and she learned from him. She learned that humanity is an amazing thing, and Halsey wants to eradicate humanity, but humanity's glorious, it won't make him special, and that's what needs to be protected. It really is one of those comments which sounds deep, which has literally no basis beneath it, but also, can we all just revel in the fact that the only reason she's actually fond of humanity is because she's never met Quan. If whether Master Chief was wiped out based on whether she liked humanity or not, meeting Quan would have been the end of the entire show. I'd be like, give me a hammer, I'll do the job myself. I believe saving humanity is a cause that's right. Not if you'd met her, it isn't. But send the asteroid, it's time. Although we do find out the true reason why she hasn't taken over his body.
I'll wait for the less beaten up version.
That'll never happen because he can't keep his pissing helmet on. Ow. But then, in another piece of physics, which I'm pretty sure can't physically happen, we get the stars, and then all the stars vanish. Because apparently, we've entered a space between competing gravitational fields. And for some reason, that makes light vanish, I don't know. And then we enter what might be some of the weirdest, most ridiculous few minutes of television you could possibly have thought of, as we enter a gravitational field, because Cortana tells him that he's got to essentially steer along a string because that's where all the gravity isn't, or something like that. Oh, yes, there's only one single path between two different galaxies, and she didn't tell him this beforehand. I mean, she's literally an AI. She could remote control the ship perfectly across a straight line, but for some reason isn't doing it. Oh yeah, and she also didn't calculate the path in advance between the fields. Instead, they've got to fly into this incredibly dangerous place where all the gravitational fields pull you apart. And she's like, yeah, once we get inside, I'll work out a path, it'll be fine. And she says, if you stray off course, you'll all get spaghettified. He's like, why didn't you tell me that before? Oh, I didn't need you to worry. What? Why didn't you prepare me for the fact that I'm going to have to fly an incredibly dangerous mission? I didn't want you to worry. Could you not have planned out the route first? I couldn't be bothered. It's like, oh. So this woman's running around screaming, opening just vents and stuff at seemingly random. I don't even know what she's meant to be doing. But we get this kind of effect, and I can only think that this cost a lot in CGI because this scene goes on forever. And there's basically no content in it. She gets stuck on the back wall because of gravity, and like, oh, the artificial's gravity's gone down. We're gonna get torn apart. I'm like, that's not how gravity works. The artificial gravity inside your ship will keep your feet steady no matter what other gravity is forced on it. But it won't keep your hull together because that's being controlled by the gravity outside your ship, not internally. And the worst thing is, they decided to make an enemy of something which is literally invisible. And so the only way they can represent it in a visual medium is to have like these waves going across the hull, which makes it look like the hull is literally just like rippling, which can't physically happen with metal. Otherwise you would just immediately break apart in space. But there's also no other way you could represent gravity on a hull. So I don't know why we're even doing this. It's a stupid storyline. They're all just like, no, they're all just sitting there normal, just there on a little country drive. The best we get is a shaky camera. She's still in the back, standing up for some reason. I still don't know why. And there's basically just a lot of red flashing lights, sirens, and people grunting as if this is intense. It really isn't. Does anyone think that this ship with all 4 Spartans in is going to break apart? Because that would be the end of the episode. No. So there's no tension. And this scene is still going on, just with a load of grunting. Then for some reason, and I don't know why, we get this whole vision of it in his eyes, and he's like, oh, I know the route. We need to stay on this path. And he's like, the ship won't hold. Yes, she'll hold. And I don't know whether he's supposed to have some, like, secret insight or something into this. Whether it's Cortana, which is somehow subliminally giving him information that she couldn't some other round. I don't, no idea. It's not explained. It'll never be explained. We'll never know. Welcome to the quality script writing of Halo, everybody. This scene is still going on. Then we see this woman, who I can't remember being in that last scene at all, so I don't know where she came from or what she was doing during all of that time. We saw good old Gunk Woman running all over the ship, and she wasn't in any of the pictures. I don't know, maybe she was on holiday. But we find the alien planet because luckily it seems to be exactly on the other side of that one string. I was lucky. If we'd needed to go to any other planet at all in any way, we would have been in trouble. And Cortana's like, oh good, you're still alive. Like, you must have known that because you're still alive as well and you're in his brain. If you take out the credits and the intro, this entire episode's about 40 minutes long. That scene went on for 3 minutes and all it was a shaky cam and lots of grunting. Seriously, it was like he was banging Quan again. That makes it like, what, 7.5%, 8% of this entire episode was just lights, rippling effect, and a shaky cam and grunting. Look, I know you spent a lot on CGI and you had to expand the rest out, but couldn't we have had something a bit more interesting than that? Next up, on scenes that don't make any sense, Halsey is talking to her daughter, and her daughter is just reveling in the fact that she's announcing to her mother that she's about to be assassinated. You literally couldn't write something this bad, but somebody did. because she's almost bragging from the other side of the table. Oh, well, you've got found on all of these charges, and they didn't really want to discuss it, so they just came to a verdict immediately. Would you like to hear it? Well, your guilt was never in doubt, was it? I'm like, what on earth are you on about? She's just now bragging about it. Haha, you're going to die. Because she's too dangerous for incarceration or exile, and so now there's only one option left to us. And for some reason, they sent her daughter in to tell her that fact. She's basically laughing in her face at this point. And the stupidity of that happening on that side of the table is only matched by the fact that Halsey doesn't care, has just been told that they're going to be put to death, and that is all the emotion we get from them. Mind you, that is also the emotion we're getting on the other side of the table. So all in all, this is like 2 blocks of wood talking to each other. She does a bit of an emotional farewell on her way out the door, but that doesn't mean anything when she just sat there and rubbed it in her face all the other times. You can't revel in the fact that someone's about to die and then feel sorry on your way out your door. That doesn't make sense as a person. But Halsey's just like, I thought by keeping you away from all of this, it would have been best for you. But it hasn't been. It's hardened you. You're chasing a ghost, let it go. And I'm like, what on earth do you mean? It would have been best not to keep it from her. Do you think bringing her in on the child experimentation would have been better for her personality development in the long term? Because quite frankly, I can't see it. I do think there's a way to be an evil scientist and also still care about your kids. I don't know, call me crazy. I think the problem was the fact that Halsey just clearly didn't care about her child, which is why it was so crazy that she'd also risk her life to try to save her in the first place. And then we cut over to this guy and he's just in the room standing there and no one said anything. I'm like, what? It makes him look like he's just walked into the room as she's leaving. But it turns out, no, he's just in that magic room with the weird things they put on their foreheads and they can teleport around the base. Quite frankly, I would have preferred he was just in the room and they'd been ignoring him. It would have been a better plot. This just seems like an easy way to get people to know things that they shouldn't know without ever being told. If we come up with a scientific reason for magic, the magic will make sense. But finally, after 9 episodes, we get the truth about the blessed ones. But behind closed doors, the Covenant start making a lot of sense. They call Makee a simple-minded creature. You can tell you've met her. She anoints herself for her own sacrifice. She has soiled our world too much with her presence. But the issue is, I like that they're also doing the whole we hate humanity angle, which they're supposed to do, but it doesn't explain any of the behavior they've accepted in the past, or even in this episode. Because, like, I've not forgotten my promise to you, brother. And it's like, yes, but did you have to let her just scream at you for decades in order to get her to do this? I can understand, even if you needed to make her think that she was on your side, but you could have done that while still making her realize that she was beneath them and should obey some kind of chain of command. Because they say once they complete the great journey, Makee will burn. But we've seen in multiple other episodes, she's just screaming at them, and they accept it. Which isn't what any of these people would have done, and didn't need to be, even if they needed to make her think that she was on their side. Because she will burn along with her species. Seems like Makee probably should have realized that she's one of them after all. I can't help thinking in that situation, even if you needed them to be on your side, they'd still be treated with the bare minimum, and they would know their place in like a hierarchy, and wouldn't dare say anything to their superiors. And you have to remember as well, they never intended Makee to actually come into contact with other humans, especially not go to their planet. So they could have kept her in a box for years, and they still would have had the same effect. So Cortana scans the planet and she reads no orbital defense systems and barely any alien activity. At no point do the Spartans think this sounds like a trap. And Chief's just like, yeah, we go in quietly, get the package and get out. That sounds like a plan which is definitely going to work. But what's his idea of going quietly, you might ask? Well, it seems to involve yeeting himself out of the aircraft. Remember, fall damage doesn't exist in this. All I'm saying is that doesn't look particularly quiet to me. You are going to make one hell of a noise when you hit the ground, especially when you land on an alien's face. But they literally land on the planet in huge sprays of sand and would have left massive craters. I mean, these are big suits of heavy armor that weigh a ton, crashing at terminal velocity through the planet. But no, nobody heard them. But instead they start sniping them and, her scope isn't zeroed correctly because the bullet doesn't land anywhere near where she's aiming. But that's far from the biggest issue in what we're about to see, especially when it comes to guns. Because they start creeping up on all the aliens and smacking them in the face and stuff. And he stamps on this guy's mask and just makes him suffocate in the atmosphere. Only so he can grab his massive weapon, which is about the size of the alien creature himself. Now, one other thing I do like about this area is it's clearly just been designed to look like a Halo map. Like, that is an arena map if ever there was one. Or at least half of one. Now, for the rest of the scene, I'm just going to say the CGI is pretty low bar. Very, very low bar. And a lot of what you're about to see is CGI. It kind of looks like PS2 graphics in parts, especially when it comes to Master Chief, and the animations are all wonky. And I'm a sucker for action, and I don't really care about graphics. And in this, even I was going, oh, that looks awful. So if it's pulling me out of the action, I imagine it's a problem for a lot of people. But I'm not going to point it out all the time. That's just my caveat for everything from this point on. But Type B and STEM comes back to find Halsey on the table, basically like shaking and having seizures, and I don't understand quite what's going on. Because those three people are medics and they're trying to save her life, even though she literally came in to revel in the fact that they're about to kill you. Look, Halsey, we don't want you to die of a seizure. We want to do it on our timetable. It doesn't make any sense. The only thing that will be happening here is a problem is taking care of itself, but for some reason, we got to try and save her life. But she has a load of flashbacks. There's memories in her head. There's voices, and she realizes, oh yeah, that's probably not Halsey. It's just a Flash clone. I mean, you'd think Flash clones actually lasted a while, whereas this one seems to have lasted about 4 hours. I don't really know. I mean, however long it's been, she's been in that interrogation room the entire time, so it's not couldn't have been that long. It's not like they moved her to her own cell to sleep or something. But instead, she just starts shaking her and yelling, "Where is she? Where is she?" It's a clone. Why do you expect her to know all of the other woman's secret plans? And the boss is pulling her away going, no, let them save your mother. It's like, why? They're going to wipe her out anyway. What is the point? I don't understand why all of these people suddenly care about the person that they were literally reveling in the death of just 2 scenes ago. But she tells them it's a clone and they realize, they've been beaten once more, which, let's face it, considering the IQ combined in that room is about 12, it wasn't very hard. Speaking of 12 IQ, Makee is coming up to touch the artifact. And she's wearing the clothing again that makes her look like some kind of tapeworm for some reason. I mean, I know those people hate her, but I don't know why they have to dress her up like this. If you don't want to look at a human body, you could have at least covered up her face as well. But the Covenant put the smaller keystone into the hole in the larger keystone, which is probably just giving her flashbacks to Master Chief. Okay, with that face, it's definitely giving her flashbacks to Master Chief. But Master Chief is also affected in the same way, because for some reason, whenever these devices are activated, everyone gets O-face. I think Master Chief's biggest problem is that now he's just squirting so far. His suit is filling up from the boots up, and if it ever reaches his face, he could actually drown in his own fluids. No wonder he keeps taking his helmet off. But the Spartans realize Master Chief's just wandered out into the open, and the aliens can see him. And they immediately blame Makee, because none of them think they could have just turned up. She didn't have to come back first. It's not like she achieved anything. And she's like, no, I swear. While pulling another face from the time she spent with Master Chief. But they're like, never mind her, get the demon! And we still don't know why they call him demon. Welcome to the Halo show, where the people that know the lore hate it because it's not like the lore, and the people that don't know the lore have no idea why any of this thing is being said. But a Spartan runs up, touches Master Chief on the shoulder, and that immediately sparks him out of whatever O-face trance he was in, as they start to get blasted. Which is a good job, because that laser was about to go through his face. Unleash the zealots! I'm pretty sure that's what they say at Disney if you just say anything positive on Twitter about Gina Carano. But while all the monsters go to fight, the 3 prophets just decide to float up in magic chairs into the sky. But at that point, Gunnar Gunkwoman hears a few little screams, and it seems that Cortana was probably wrong, which isn't a surprise because she's been wrong about most things, most of the series. Oh yeah, you know all of those barely any Covenant that were on the planet before? That wasn't exactly accurate, because now Cortana decides to tell Master Chief that Sangheili warriors are approaching from below. Couldn't detect them before, but now, yeah, there's hundreds of them. They were hidden inside the mountain itself. I couldn't detect them because your scanners can't detect like passageways into a mountain or something. No, it's far too complicated for Cortana, the most advanced AI ever. Yep, didn't want to scout around first. No. So the Spartans ask Master Chief how many, and he's just got told hundreds. And he doesn't even tell his mates. He's just like, we need to move. They say how many, and we get visited to this. It's like, yeah, there's quite a few. And you get Varric going, there's too many. Yes, there was hundreds. I don't know why he hasn't told you there was hundreds so that you could make important tactical decisions in the middle of battle, knowing how many enemies you're about to fight. But he eventually tells them, and at this point, they're probably wishing that they'd brought along those 10,000 Marines. They could have been useful. I mean, I don't think it really matters how many of them would have died when there's 10,000 more guns that could have shot at these people. Also, I want you to remember that all of these aliens are just flooding across the open territory and would be prime for some aerial bombardment. If only they had a gunship in the air that really could have helped support them at this very moment, it would have been incredibly useful. Unfortunately, all of them are on the ground, so no one can pilot that ship. Oh, it's a real shame. We call that foreshadowing. So we get these guys jumping down with gravity hammers, which should be really interesting considering we've already seen Master Chief fight a gravity hammer, and he already had a shield, and it still annihilated him. So him going up against 5 people with gravity hammers, he should get destroyed, right? Instead, we get this. Now, this next scene is about a minute of just pure CGI, and the CGI is awful, but I'm also a sucker for action, and so I like the action. I'm really confused, because my brain's going, this is stupid, he should be dead, the gravity hammers are hitting him in the face. But the part of me that loves John Wick is just going, this is awesome. But the waves of aliens are pouring on them, and you're sort of thinking, you kind of wish there was another entrance to this place, right? That they could come up. But instead, we're firing a few lasers into them, which is basically just pissing into the wind at this point. So Makee runs away and hides, which I think is understandable. I think we've all done this to an ex at some point, haven't we? No, just me. Oh god, the crazy bint's over there. Quick! Get out of here. Look, it's the rules. I'm too British. If I get caught, I have to engage in polite conversation, and I don't want to. If you play first-person shooter games, I think we've all got a mate who is essentially this little dude at the bottom left, who just hides behind a wall while you're in the melee range fighting, and he's just taking pot shots. Everyone else just pushes the enemy, and there's just a guy at the back going, I'm helping, Steve, I'm helping. You take all the risks, they get all the kill credit. But here we are, it's Atriox, at least according to the backstage script. Because hey, for some reason, they don't want to say that in the show. And Cortana's like, hey, Chief, there's that guy that kicked your ass last time. I don't know what a Covenant Giral Hane is, but it sounds more like a drink than a creature. Oh, can I have one of them Covenant Giral Hanes, please? Yeah, double. And I think at this point, Master Chief just sees the perfect opportunity to get his ass handed to him again. But don't worry, because Gun Oil Gunk Woman has clearly been watching too many Disney movies and just been convinced by Type B empowerment. She's like, I can do anything I believe I can do. She's about to get that proved very wrong. As she jumps the pillar, okay, admittedly, dodged his first shot, but then he just grabs her leg and smacks her face down into the floor. You get what you deserve. She has just gone from disaster to disaster the entire 9 episodes. It's been amazing. All I wanted from this was basically the Hulk smash, where he just grabs her leg and just starts smacking her back and forth. At least he yeets her into the pillar, eh? I mean, that's something. So she's out of the fight. Master Chief, though, about to perform a bit of magic because he's surrounded by all of these enemies. Now, the stupid thing is that guy swings the hammer at him and Master Chief just kicks it out of his hand. That's not how momentum works. Then he just catches the other guy's gravity hammer. Bearing in mind, the gravity hammer yeeted him across an entire battlefield before when he was holding a shield, but now, no, he could just tank him whenever he wants. Like, I wouldn't have minded because I wouldn't have known the power of these things until you showed me the power of it in episode 5, but now for some reason they've all been nerfed. This has got to be the biggest nerf to a weapon I've seen. They go from super powered to I can just hold them whenever I want. But if you can get past that and the bad CGI and the bad animation, I am a sucker for action. So he's there smacking him, shooting him, and then we get a rather dodgy first-person view. But it's worse than that. Because here we are. We've got 15 bullets on the ammo counter. He's fired about 15 bullets, and there's still 8 left. He fires 5 bullets, and it goes down to 4. But the next bit is particularly egregious, and so that's the clip I'm going to show you. It still says 4, even though you can see that he's just fired, and then I'm just going to show you the next clip. He fired 5 bullets, and the ammo counter at the end was 2. I don't know who added the audio and the flashes to this. I don't know who changed the ammo counter. What I do know is 15 bullets isn't 15 bullets in this gun. But we've got 2. Is he gonna fire any more than 2? Yes. But either way, Master Chief gets knocked down and they just start wailing on him with hammers. Apparently, all these melee hits, they're not taking down his shield or damaging him in any way. He's just fine. He can tank it. It's great. Basically, all of this is CGI and it really doesn't look good. But it is pretty cool how he takes them down. Especially when he grabs this hammer and just yeets it at Atriox and knocks the other guy's hammer out of his hand. I mean, honestly, if Master Chief was this good, I don't know why he didn't ever show it before. Although he does get immediately just destroyed by Aatrox and just picks him up. It's like, yeah, you got your ass handed to you once, and now you've just done it again. Congratulations, Mr. Chief. And Makee's like, oh no, if he dies, I'll never get to see his head again. Meanwhile, he also thinks, hey, Master Chief's had his helmet off so much, he probably doesn't need it. And so he just starts to squash. And all of his visor starts to get cracked, and like, yeah, well, you know, it's not like you use the helmet anyway. But Makee, unable to let her one-time fling die, even though she was fully willing to wipe out him and his entire planet and species previously, has a plan. And she goes to touch the artifact as if that'll do something. I mean, we already know this will just put you in VR. But either way she touches it, the wave goes out. And for some reason, it starts knocking everyone over and blowing them off a mountain. I don't know why. It's never done this before. The Spartans, if they weren't holding onto these pillars, would just get blown off the mountain. Never been done before. Never even seen anything like this before. People have gone unconscious. Machines have gone unconscious. Machines have got repaired. Never has there been wind before. This really is the magic device of what does it do? Whatever we need it to. Congratulations. How can we solve the problem this time? I don't know, but that device, it can do anything. All the aliens are just getting blown away and they're all safe all of a sudden as they get yeeted off a mountain at speed. Hey, maybe it was a good job not to bring those 10,000 Marines after all. And of course, we get the O-face. No, I mean, we really get the O-face. And she's like twitching as it goes, just to make you really understand the full effect that this is having on her. Meanwhile, it writes a map in the sky, and if it's only meant to make a map, why on earth was it ever designed to do all of this other stuff, like blowing people away and shutting down things and repairing ships, if it's just a map? The sacred ring is revealing its location, a lot like Makee did in the last episode. Master Chief, behold the location of my secret ring. There are still Covenant aliens on the mountain. It's just for some reason, they've all decided that they're no longer going to fight and start kneeling down. Look, I know it's meant to be sacred and it's supposed to be religious, but there are people with guns pointing them at you. You probably want to do something like that first. It's not just the aliens, though. All the Spartans keep staring at the map as well, and not the aliens that they were shooting a second ago. Seriously, watching a map in the sky, it's not that impressive. It really isn't. But Master Chief just starts walking towards her for some reason. It's pretty weird. I can only imagine the bodily fluid level is just rising in his suit again. This is the weirdest close-up of the entire episode. I don't know why we've got to zoom in this close into someone's nose and mouth. Just screams, John! It's alright, just let him get frisky for a little bit. He can be in VR, it's fine. Because in VR he is, as he goes down to kneel before the sacred ring. And back in VR we are. You know he's in VR because he's taken his pissing helmet off again. At least in this one he is actually in no danger. By the way, this is the closest you're ever going to get to a ring in Halo, because there isn't one in the entire first series. We've just got VR Halo. Virtual reality Halo. I could just play Halo. Finally, everyone realizes that they are still enemies and should probably start shooting at each other again. She drags the other Spartan to safety, and Vanek literally teleports onto the high ground because I have no idea how he got up here. He was outside the front, she dragged the other Spartan inside, and somehow he ended up here. There was no scene in the middle. He just was down there, then he's up there all of a sudden. But Master Chief and Makee just start waffling, and there's no content to this entire scene. It's just, you need to go back. We can live here. We can't live here. It's not real. And I think it's meant to be deep, and it really isn't. We can live in virtual reality. No, we can't. She's like, I'm not going back, John. You don't really have much choice. So with Gun Oil Gunk Woman realizing there's 300 of them, and I have a sniper rifle when I probably should have brought something that's automatic, she realizes she's only got one choice, because they need Chief to help them fight, and so there's only one thing left. Vari gets nailed by one of the little guys, and now he's down as well. But there's a very obvious solution, and it's one that's really well-deserved. Not before we get to see the full effect, which touching the massive device is having on her, biology. Literally twitching. It must be done on purpose. It must be. But she's like, there was a reason the keystones were letting us here all along. It's like, yeah, because it was meant to show a map, love. That's literally the point. Just because you've squirted yourself onto a Halo ring doesn't mean there's a point to it. But we realize with red pooling around her chest that finally someone in this series has done something actually entertaining. That's right, someone shot Makee. And John's like, no, no, no. She betrayed your entire species and she wanted to wipe them off the face of the universe. I don't know why you're upset. Look, I know they say you never forget your first, but if your first is literally an alien spy intent on destroying everything, maybe make an exception, eh? Now, at this point, they say the star map is incomplete, and I have to ask the incredibly advanced alien technology just how difficult it is to show a map. But through them, we see all the aliens coming back, and it's not looking good. But it gets worse when this dude lobs a sticky grenade, and it sticks to her and detonates. And yes, that's the quality of the CGI you're witnessing. And that woman isn't dead, even though she should be, Even after you see what happens next, it gets worse, and at this point, I have no idea what the show thinks it's doing. Because Master Chief is down, they realize the other blessed one is dead, and so now they need Master Chief alive. Master Chief, though, has other ideas, as he just starts nailing all the aliens. He's like, if only you'd fought this well before. Cortana's telling him she's got 3 possible routes out of here, and he's not taking any of them. He doesn't want to leave without the artifact, but touching the artifact means that he will go into O-face mode and just be unable to do anything, because he will be filling his suit once more. And at this point, it would be surprising if he had any left. I'm not sure what Atriox has been doing all of this time. It seems like he's just been standing outside, waiting. It's a bit stupid. And Cortana says, there's no way you could get the artifacts and save the team. And quite frankly, at this point, I don't think he could do any of them. But John has a plan.
Then you do it.
Cortana takes over his body. Now she can touch the artifacts and she can get them out of there. Seems great, right? Fine. So why does he do this? He decides, with his gun down, to just walk out in front of all of the aliens and keep getting shot. He's just standing there taking blaster fire for absolutely no reason. And he just keeps stumbling towards them under all this blaster fire. And I'm like, at this point, there won't be anything left of you for her to actually take over. So he takes blaster fire after blaster fire, walks right up to Atriox. He drops his gun as Cortana goes, I might not be able to bring you back. And I'm like, at this point, you're not even going to be able to take him over. And he says, I trust you, as Atriox smashes him into outer space. And he just hits a wall and plummets down and lands on the ground still. I don't know what his plan was. None of that was necessary when he could have just gone into a corner somewhere and just gone, okay, Cortana, take me over now. There was no need for him to basically ask for his suit to be absolutely annihilated. What if Atriox hadn't blasted him into space? What if the dude had just got him and started crushing his skull like he did the first time round? Of all these stupid plans that don't make any sense, that one takes the biscuit. Also, I'd like to point out those aliens in the background there, you know, the ones in the distance, so they're really easy to add CGI to. They never get any closer. Oh yeah, and that red that you see on her chest, that's because there's no armor there anymore, and that's actually her internals you can see. She'll be fine, though. She'll be fine, yeah. The wounds like that heal all the time. Now, for some reason, Cortana feels the need to go outside his body. I don't know why. I'm pretty sure none of this is necessary. Because, you see, she's inside his brain and is taking over his brain. But no, I need to go and touch your heart in this really spiritual moment. And I don't really care that you've made any of these characters change, because on my mind, all I've got is her going, I can't wait to wipe out your brain. Why can't I take over Master Chief's brain in a creepy little manner? And I can't get over it. I can't. It's like, oh, I had to take him over accidentally. When the game is over, the king and the pawn go back into the same box. I'm sure that's meant to be some incredible line with deep meaning and significance. And all I can think is, I can't wait to take over your brain. Please, Halsey, why can't I wipe out Master Chief? No, the thing is, yes, Master Chief is now perfect because he fits a woman, and he demonstrates that very well, because he just starts obliterating everything. Then he gets their guns and just blasts all the way around the side. I'm pretty sure I've seen it in other movies, but it's still quite cool. I'm not sure why she can't do this with Master Chief, though. Why she can't tell him where all the enemies are, or somehow beam that into his brain, considering she's already in his brain, to give him the knowledge without verbally telling him. It kind of feels like she shouldn't have to take over his brain for him to be able to do this himself. If they just work together, but, you know, maybe that's in a future series. But he's basically not even moving, is annihilating anyone even coming close to him. This is the Master Chief that you kind of wanted to see for the entire series. You know, another bonus? Got his helmet on. So the dude comes running at him. At this point, you'd assume you just shoot him in the face. But no, instead he gets wiped out by something. Oh yeah, that spaceship, which apparently Cortana can fly remotely. How come she never did before? You know, when the 4 Spartans were alive and all those aliens were pushing them, and a spaceship that could shoot them all would have been really useful. Cortana could have flown it then. She's only taken over his brain. It doesn't mean she can fly a spaceship, but she couldn't before. She has all the access to the ship now that she did before, and yet, she just forgot. Didn't have the brain capacity to think about flying the ship before or something. I don't know. I'd love to know what the reason for this one was. That could have saved the Spartans, because that ship is the one that's come in to wipe everyone out. And yet Cortana just decided, nah, I can't be bothered to use that before. Not until I can actually take over this guy's entire body. Like, the ship is just annihilating everything. This would have saved and changed the entire fight. There is one person responsible for all of those Spartans being injured, and it's Cortana, who only decided to save them once she actually took over Master Chief's body. But the best bit is, just picks up the entire artifact and carries it on his shoulder like a boss. Doesn't say a word to anybody, just gets the mission done. And he leaves Makee behind, not caring whether she lives or dies. So they gather all the Spartans out, Still hasn't said a word. And look, all I'm saying is you ain't surviving that wound, love, alright? I can see ribs. Taking her helmet off isn't going to make her any better, I'll be honest. Look, come on, dude. There's no way you expect me to believe that someone's surviving when I can see that. What does Master Chief do? He gets a gas hose and his firearm, turns that into a blowtorch, and just starts blasting. Look, I'm no doctor, but I'm pretty sure none of that is how that works. And the other two Spartans are like looking at him and saying, what on earth is this guy doing? I don't care whether you're in advanced AI or not, love. That ain't working. But apparently, no. Job done, solved, next problem. Fly the ship. Walks off. Doesn't say a word. And all I'm saying is Cortana is more Master Chief than John ever was. Kicked ass, shot a load of things, got the job done, saved the teammates, kept their helmet on the entire time, even when they got back to the ship. Yes, Master Chief was perfect when he could fit a woman. But if it stops me hearing John whine about his feelings all the pissing time, I think it's a price I'm willing to pay, I gotta be honest. She's like, I'll try and bring you back. No, please don't. Please. I don't want to hear about his feelings through all of season 2 as well. Can we just leave him wherever he is, in the cold, dark part of his mind, which he's no doubt been, like, shoved? I'm more than happy to have silent Cortana imitate him, because it's more than Pablo ever has. Now, we see Halsey just outside the Capitol, still waffling the same old trash she's always waffled into her handbook. But this entire place has drones and stuff with facial recognition. So I have no idea why no one can track her. Even those little independents could recognize Quan from space, so I don't know why they can't find Halsey. And she starts talking about pushing past humanity's ignorance, and I'm like, and I can't help thinking that's just every character in the show, which says more about the production crew than humanity. But she gets this guy to come up behind him, who I'm assuming will be a creepy scientist replacement in season 2. That's right, they killed off the best character. And at this point, I'm just hoping there's somehow some magic way he survives, although I can't think of it. Not unless it turns out he was a clone as well. But the Spartans are beginning to realize, maybe something isn't quite as it seems. But of course, Vanek, he still has that suppressor in his back. He can't think of it. But obviously, Gun Oil Gunk Woman, type B intuition, you see. She can put 2 and 2 together, whereas the other guy, you know, he needs to be told what to think without his emotions making him powerful. So she goes to have a word with Master Chief, who I still think is acting more like Master Chief now than John did, because he still doesn't say anything and has a helmet on. Oh, this is like one of the first times since episode 1 he's been flying the ship with his helmet on. She's like, John, is that you? And he just looks over at her and looks back. It's like, I'm not going to answer you until you get that gunk out your hair, love. And this entire scene was better because he didn't answer her. If that had been John, he would have started waffling on about his feelings again. Oh, I can't believe they shot Makee. Wah. So at least we're spared that. And you can tell that they knew they were getting a season 2, because that isn't an ending to a season finale. Sure, you built up to some kind of crescendo, but the ending, where was it? Oh, we're just going to fly off on a ship. Okay. Kind of goes off like a bit of a damp squib though, doesn't it? At no point did we find a halo. We haven't even found the location to a halo. And so essentially, we're back where we were in the first episode again. At some point, we're going to need to actually go to the halo in Halo. And I think that might actually be the season finale of season 2. But one thing I learned since Cortana took over Master Chief's body is that actually, they could have done a decent Master Chief if only they'd tried to stick to the actual character. Because when they went to the more silent thing and she's asking him questions and he's just looking over at her and back, it's far better than any of the whiny little stuff that he would have said in her place. For the rest of the episodes, I do think there were some good scenes and I think there were some good decisions. And it's just all surrounded by a load of really terrible writing. There's no reason that Master Chief should have walked off into certain death just so Cortana could have taken over his body. Walking into a spaceship surrounded by enemies and taking off your helmet is stupidly ridiculous. And it kind of destroys any goodwill that you may have just created in the bit before, which might have been decent action. You killed off the single best character in the game of the creepy scientist with all of his Halsey clones, and also wiped out Makee, which, let's face it, she had it coming. If only Quan had been in this episode and could have got the same treatment, the episode might have got another point. And Cortana taking over Master Chief, something I've railed about for the entire series. But the thing is, when it happens, she actually plays him better than he does. Her taking over him wiped out a load of character traits, which I absolutely despised. And so I ended up kind of preferring her overall. I don't know, that doesn't say anything about Cortana taking over his body is good. It's more about how negative it was before. But you still end up to the fact that, I don't know. I kind of like her this way. When she's like, I don't know if I can bring you back. I'm like, yeah, can we just not try, please? But as ever, the plot armor is basically infinite. People are taking stupid amounts of damage, which they shouldn't be able to take, to the point where a grenade can blow off your armor and basically half of your torso, and apparently all you need is a blowtorch and you'll be fine. When you do that kind of thing, there's no risk for the characters. You could have had a grenade stuck on her and it just damaged the armor and it wouldn't have been quite so stupid. But you couldn't resist going that extra bit further and just blowing any kind of suspension of disbelief out of the water. You could have come up with some high-tech medical device like they did in Star Trek that could have saved their life. Instead, you used a blowtorch. Cauterizing wounds isn't some just magic cure-all you can use for anything, no matter what the damage is. And so overall, it's kind of annoying because I got glimpses of the action that I would love to see in the series, and it's just really let down by the same old problems before. The script writing, the characterizations, there was poor CGI, and poor decisions about things like military strategy. Why on earth, when there's 300 ships there, did Cortana not fly the ship around in the first place? Why did she wait until the end when she actually got the body she wanted to do it? There's no reason that one should be linked to the other. And all of that just leads you to be pulled out of the episode so you can't get absorbed in it, because these things are so glaringly awful, such terrible decisions, that even when I want to like something like the action, I just keep getting hit over the head with that. But for me, I think this was my favorite episode. I think it had the most action in, and I definitely found this the least boring out of all of the episodes. This isn't enough for me to go, oh, it was good. It's like, no, this was just, compared to the other stuff, above it. But something definitely needs to be done with the series for season 2. You need to get someone who could just look at it and point out all of the incredibly stupid decisions which are made all of the time that contradict each other, or stupid laws, or ships coming out of each other, or someone that can tell you that a device that can do literally anything in magic isn't a good idea in a TV series. There has to be someone with a normal IQ on the set who could at least rein in the ridiculousness of the series. Is it possible? I don't know. After everything that we learned about how they had to change all of the law simply so they could make it through their eyes and use their creativity, it's like, no, if this is your creativity, stop. Nobody wants your creativity. Your creativity should be thrown out of a window, and we need new people which actually can stick more to the actual Halo lore, because quite frankly, I think you need it. If you stuck to the lore, you wouldn't have all of the plot holes because someone else has already gone through it and thought about it and fixed it. The one thing that season 1 has done is prove that you're not capable of making your own show with your own plot, which is either any good or even makes sense at a fundamental level. So perhaps for season 2, we just make sure that you don't do that again. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. What did you think of the season finale? What did you think of season 1? Or if you didn't watch it, what did you think of the review? Let me know down in the comments below. Like the video if you like the video. Subscribe. More videos like this in the future, and I will see you in the next one. Obi-Wan Kenobi will be the next series of the reviews, and it starts in about a week, I think. So I'll see you there for the next one. But for now, that's it from me. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.